This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today in the studio are the Toledo Symphony's principal second violin and artistic administrator Merwin Hsu, the TSO's director of marketing Vanessa Gardner, and our old friend and frequent guest Michael Lang, who is resident director and choreographer for Toledo Ballet. Welcome to all of you, especially to you, Michael. Thanks for joining us today.
No, especially.
Well, I say especially because, you know, you're a treasured guest on this program. You've been here in the past. But we have a great project that we're going to talk about now. And this is sort of the synthesis of the performing arts and the healing arts. Two specialties, you know, for you, Michael, with your experience over the years. This special dance event is called Coming Up for Air. And it's happening at the Valentine Theater, right? That's Saturday evening at 7 o'clock p.m. Yeah. Folks, if they're interested in tickets, they can find all that information at ToledoSymphony.com. The Toledo Symphony box office phone number is 419-246-8000. So let's start out by talking a little bit about what this piece is, Michael. It is music and dance. There are a lot of dancers involved. It's based on an album that came out in 2015 called the Chopin Project, which is music of Frédéric Chopin, but also interspersed with music by the Icelandic composer and instrumentalist. I'm going to take a stab at his name here, Ólafur Arnalds. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
I'll go with that for you.
And tell us, first of all, how you discovered this music, how it appealed to you, and how this idea of creating this dance performance on stage came to mind.
Well, I probably won't say his name correctly.
That's okay. We'll just paste my pronunciation over your voice, right?
That works for me.
Yeah.
As I put, for the last 15 years, I've been doing original productions for the ballet, and music search is a huge part of that. And so I will just constantly be looking for different types of music. And I came across Ólafur's music quite a few years back, and I just loved it. It's very simplistic in its nature. It has a minimalist quality to it, but at the same time, it's extremely powerful. And I always find myself, I don't know why I use this analogy when I hear it and describe it, but I feel like I'm on an old wooden rocking ship. And it just kind of soothes me in that way of just being kind of rocked back and forth in a gentle yet profound kind of way. And I'd come across this music a while ago, and interestingly, Zach Vassar had sent me, said, "Have you heard of this?" And I'm very bad about remembering things for some reason, and I said, "I'll check it out." And so when I hit it, took me to my playlists that I had already programmed in. And I'm like, oh yeah, we've already labbed ideas to this, but it's interesting though, because as a show goes, I wasn't sure what to do with it, because it kind of just floats in the same area a lot. It doesn't have a lot of ebb and flow. And for a show, you usually are looking for music that takes people on up and downs and journeys that, go here and there. And I didn't really see that. But, of course, I don't know if you've heard or not, but we had a pandemic all last year.
Yeah, I did hear about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we were quarantined, it was really interesting, because as most people, we don't really have that kind of time to just be in our households with our families and that sort of thing. So, I found myself with time that I don't usually have to just ponder, what could I do with this time? And I have a healing arts background, but I also have a performing arts background, and I really started to, and I've been doing this a little by little over the years with the kids anyway, just because I think they do lend themselves to each other quite a bit, and I think dance in itself is a healing art if the intention is put to it that way.
All right, hold that thought, Michael, because I'm going to jump in with our little ongoing feature. This is a little bit of a quiz question. We'll come back and talk about your experience with healing arts after this.
Was I sounding too intelligent? Now you're going to
Indeed. We had to dumb it down a little bit with Chopin, of course. This is a Minute Waltz by Frédéric Chopin, actually played in about a minute. And, it's not one of the pieces by Chopin that are included in the Chopin project. But this is a quiz about Iceland, because the composer Ólafur is from Iceland, and so we're going to test your Iceland 101. Let me throw out a couple of questions here. What fast food company is not found in Iceland? Is it McDonald's? Is it Domino's Pizza? Or is it Subway? A, B, or C? Which one of those is not in Iceland? And the companion question is, which fast food chain is in Iceland? Is it A, the Hungarian pastry shop, B, the vitamin bar? I ran out of music. There we go.
I must have gone past a minute.
Or C, American style. A, B, or C? Hungarian pastry, vitamin bar, or American style? Which one of those is in Iceland? Okay. Now back to discussion. We'll, at the very end of the program, we'll come back and I'll give you the answers to all these. All right? So you were talking, Michael, about coming up for air and how the music doesn't so much lend itself as to a linear story as it does to an experience. And this experience you've created out of your own experience with the healing arts. Can you talk a little bit about what you do, not as a choreographer, not as a director, but what you do to help people de-stress and relax, the kind of disciplines that you have studied in your career?
Well, it kind of started for me. I actually dated a massage therapist when I worked on cruise ships when I was 19. And that was kind of my intro to the massage world. And she would teach me little techniques. And as a dancer, we're constantly having to put Scarecrow back together. So I was really fascinated with this idea that, you could do these techniques to heal the body. And so that introduced me to the idea. And then in 94, I moved to Los Angeles, and I actually got there a year before the Northridge quake, so that was my welcome to California party. And it literally shook me out of bed at 4:31 and threw me onto the ground. I mean, it was that powerful of a quake. Wow. And so, at 25, you feel pretty invincible. You feel like you can take on the world and that nothing will ever, and I literally thought the building was going to crash through the ground. I thought there's no way this building can survive this. So, at 25, I was faced with my own mortality. And suddenly running around Los Angeles handing out my headshot and resume seemed a bit superficial. Not that I was done with the performing arts, but it just didn't feel like it was everything I wanted. And so the massage idea came back, and I went to a school in Santa Monica, California, and it was very California hippie, it was just carpet squares on the floor and sage in the corner. But it taught the massage through the grounded stances of Tai Chi Chuan. And I had studied Tai Chi just a little bit in my early 20s. And so I became very interested in that. And then skip forward a little bit, I was in North Hollywood, and I think I was on an audition or something, and I got lost, which, this is before the GPS days. And I saw this bakwa, which is the yin-yang symbol with the hexagram around it, based off of the I Ching on the side of a building. And I thought, well, I'm lost and probably won't get this gig anyway, so I'm going to go check this out. So I went in, and there was a Taoist abbot that taught Shaolin-styled Kung Fu and Qigong and Tai Chi Chuan, and it was an extremely intense training. And so I started doing that, and it turned out that he was the one that taught the massage school, their Tai Chi, so this full circle thing kind of happened, which was kind of interesting. But I totally immersed myself in it, and I didn't have children at the time, and so I just really kind of trained like a Shaolin monk, and I would train like 4 or 5 hours a day, just in Qigong and these Shaolin techniques. And it really just put me on this path, this healing arts path. And so now I teach, Qigong is my main. It's like a Tai Chi. Tai Chi is a Qigong, but it's a martial form of Qigong. But it's just moving the energy with the mind and the breath and simple, easy movements. I mean, I teach it to kids, but I also teach it to people in their 80s and 90s as well. So it's a nice, gentle exercise, but extremely powerful too, because it works the inside and the chi, the energy, through the body.
So do these disciplines then, are they a part of your choreography in creating this piece coming up for air?
Yeah, I mean, we're intertwining it. I've used, like in my contemporary classes, we do a thing that I call connect, which is basically it's like a Tai Chi push hands, and so the dancers have to connect hands to start, and they can't push their own agenda, and they also can't like space out and lose connection either. So they have to really listen to each other, and it's a really fascinating study in the sense that it forces them to really have to tune in to their partner and really be there with their partner, because when they lose contact, so it's kind of a combination of Tai Chi push hands and contact improvisation and that sort of thing. But boy, to watch them move around the room, so I try to take these concepts and then intertwine them with dance. I've been doing that for a while, but I've never done it like this with a show. So this show is very different than anything any of us have ever done before. So
that's great. All right, second round of questions. And then I want to come back and ask you, Merwin and Vanessa, because you've been sitting there so nice and quiet. Talk a little bit about how you perhaps de-stress. I mean, de-stressing is like a key word right now. Here I am wasting all this music. All right, question. There's a famous school in Iceland where you can learn all about what? Is it elves? Is it fairies? Or is it Santa Claus? A, B, or C? You can go to school to learn about these characters or this character. And the next question is, what controversial habit do most Icelandic parents follow? A, they leave their infants outside to sleep in the cold. B, they don't look their child in the eye. Or C, they let their kids go off on their own as young as 4 years old. A, B, or C? Hey, I made it before the minute was up. Okay? Doing 2 questions at a time here. We'll let that finish out. Ta-da. Okay. So we'll have the answers at the end of the podcast. Merwin or Vanessa, which one of you wants to talk a little bit about your own experience and what you use? This is we're supposed to be an educational podcast, right? So we're using Coming Up for Air, this dance project, as sort of a point of departure to talk a little bit about how we deal with stress, and especially over the past year, that's been a big part of everybody's lives. What do you want to tell us about, Vanessa?
Well, I try to do yoga every day, and I do an at-home yoga practice. There's just something really warm and comforting about practicing yoga in the comfort of my home and with the things that are near and dear to me. So I try to do that almost every morning. But I think the biggest lesson I've learned in the last year and a half has been about work-life balance and trying to truly leave the stressful aspects of work at work and trying to then recharge when I'm not at work. And I find that makes me a much better worker when I am actually at work and doing the things that require my brain space. I used to take a lot of work home with me, and I still do on occasion when the deadlines call for it. But for me, I try to remind my colleagues, no small children will die if you don't finish that report or you don't get that grant application done at, such and such a time. And
is that the case, Merwin? You have small children.
It's been very helpful to remind myself. Oh, my kids will be okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are deadlines, and sometimes we do need to work a little bit of extra time to meet those deadlines. But, we are in the performing arts. We are running a performing arts organization, and that should be something that we're all doing because we truly enjoy it and are passionate about it. Yeah. Not because, we're not curing COVID as much as some of us on our staff wish that we had that answer. Yeah. But, we're doing something that is supposed to feed the soul. And I think we have to make sure that our souls are fed so that we can do that for others. So
well, and absolutely, this dance event, speaks to that process as well. Lots of different things coming together in a performance venue, but as I said before, it's more of an experience for the audience. Michael, you called it an hour-long meditation. I want to listen to some of the music, aside from Chopin, the music of Ólafur Arnalds as well, to give us a little taste of what folks can expect. But why don't we start with that? We'll listen to a little bit of the opening track, And if you're on the podcast, I'm afraid I'll have to truncate this, but we'll just tune into this for a second here. Yeah, it's just a little.
I don't know what it is about it. It like literally enters my cells. It like vibrates in my body.
Well, and what's interesting is when you hear this music juxtaposed with the excerpts from Frédéric Chopin's catalog, it really sheds a different light on the Chopin piece itself. You know, we don't necessarily think of this particular piece as, you know, a meditation, although it does have that quality to it. It really sounds different when you listen to it in context of this piece.
Well, and I think that's what we're trying to say with this, because I'm actually in this show living in a grass 8x8 box upstage as almost like a subliminal, literal message of what my dancers are artistically depicting downstage. But the idea of meditation, I think some people get confused that, you know, it's full lotus floating in the air. Mm-hmm. And, you know, meditation can be having a cup of tea mindfully with a friend. You know, the idea of meditation and yoga and all these practices is that we take them off the mat, you know, and you know, the practice is just the practice, and what we practice, we become. And so, it's just, you know, that this is why the simplicity of the music is so appealing to me for this idea, because it really is just like, hey, like she said, put down the phone, turn off the notifications, be with the person you're with, listen to them, you know, and I think this return to simplicity idea is what I really want people to get out of this. You know, it's like, I think we're so busy trying to save the world with our Facebook posts and everything right now that as we're doing this, we're missing the fact that this old lady crossing the street might need our help. So let's like focus on what's right in front of us and meditate on life itself and just be present for each other. And for each other is also the operative idea, you know, just be there for each other. Because, I mean, if there's any time that has shown us that we need each other, I think it's been this past year.
Absolutely. And I love how you weaved some of those mantras into the conversation that your dancers are saying in that little video, the little preview video. Mm-hmm. Little mantras like, you know, share a cup of tea, breathe mindfully. My favorite one, I think, is take care of the elderly, right? Mm-hmm. So that means, my kids aren't quite full grown, but that's definitely one I'm going to repeat to them as often as possible. While they're growing up. But really, these simple little phrases are echoed in the music itself. How are you echoing this in the dance? You talked a little bit about the movement, you know, relating to these different disciplines, and you've talked about, you know, putting yourself into the action as well. How would you characterize the actual physics of what the dancers are doing throughout the piece?
Well, like if you take the tea idea, you know, it's such a simple idea. When that girl that I dated from Ireland, I went over and spent a couple weeks with her and her family, and they just lived in a little farm community, and it was just a really peaceful environment. But right around 4:00, all of a sudden, all these people started showing up at her house, friends and family members and everything else. And it looked like what we would consider like a Christmas reunion or something. And I said, you know, what's happening? You know, and she looked at me very matter of fact, and she goes, well, it's afternoon tea. You know, and you know, everybody shut down their shops and work was just put on pause for a minute. And I don't know, I just thought, wow, what a beautiful idea to not feel like we can't just take time to just get together and go, hey, how you doing? You know, have a cup of tea.
That's actually really amazing, because it is maybe the thing I miss most from my childhood is this chance. I was always sitting with my mother at about 4:00 in the afternoon, and you know, it was one of the things I kept thinking about in the pandemic. And then I saw a box of pound cake. It was that, and it was profoundly moving because I was like, this is this tangible reminder of what I was missing was the chance to sit down and have tea.
Yeah. And those moments are just, it's like you're talking about it because it's part of you now, and I think going back to the phone idea, I think we feel like we have to like capture things, and sometimes we just need to be and experience it, and
live in the moment.
Some of the best moments I have in my life are not recorded.
Stop and smell the coffee or tea, as it may be.
Yeah,
something
tea
like
was
that.
a tradition in my family too, being from England. So it's a cup of tea always reminds me of my grandparents.
Well, I didn't have any tea growing up. I was a big coffee drinker as a kid. It's time for a couple of more quiz questions. This is a good one. What is one of the most popular apps in Iceland used for? Speaking of not using your phones, we're going to weave this in here. Is the most popular app in Iceland used for A, finding the nearest hot dog stand? They're really big on hot dogs in Iceland, which is true. Avoiding hooking up with your cousin on Tinder, also known as the anti-incest app, or is it locating the secret fishing hotspots in and around the country? A, B, or C? Nearest hot dog stand, avoid hooking up with your cousin, or find some fish? A, B, or C? Now, here's another one. What unusual museum is found in Iceland? Is it the underwater museum that you need scuba gear to view the over than 400 sculptures
I want to go there.
that are submerged? Is it the Museum of Broken Relationships,
with your cousin,
which features video confessionals, items full of romantic memories gone sour, and in one case, an axe that a woman used to dismantle her ex's furniture when she was jilted? Now, these are all real things. You just have to tell me which one is from Iceland. Oh. Or is it the Phallological Museum? Can you guess what that contains? That it's also called the Penis Museum, but we'll see if we can beep that out later. There's a collection of more than 215 of those parts belonging to almost all the land and sea mammals that can be found in the country. These are animals parts, okay, not human parts.
Okay.
So just get that out of your mind right now. So is it A, B, or C? Underwater, broken relationships, or phallological? A, B, or C? We ran out of music for that one, although I don't know that Chopin is appropriate for that last question. But we'll get the answers to you at the end of the podcast. During the pandemic, people were really tending to focus inward anyway. But coming up for air is not just talking about submerging yourself in these ideas and these practices, Michael. It also relates to, getting some sense of release, coming up for air, feeling the release inherent in taking a deep breath of oxygen, I mean, there's something to be said for that. Can you talk a little bit about how you view this experience as an emergence of sorts for the audience?
Well, it's interesting because when I started this, we all felt like we were coming out of this, and so I've kind of had to switch gears a little bit with what this is quickly.
So you just go up and take a breath and then jump right back into
jump right back in and submerge.
Go right back into the depths.
But what I mean, it was, originally the idea was, okay, now that we're out of this, how do we reconnect as a society without losing the lessons that we had gained from it? And that was my my mission, I guess, if you will, was to kind of go, hey, okay, we can't do puzzles with our kids all the time, but how about let's not just completely lose that idea, and every once in a while sit down and do a puzzle with your child, and so some of the things that we got to do in this quarantine life wasn't all bad, and so how do we keep that was what the idea. It's kind of morphed into really going away from this whole COVID idea and just being a guide as to whatever you're going through, if it's COVID related, if it's a divorce, if it's the loss of a loved one, if it's a job it's overwhelming or whatever. These are just simple guides that if you want to grab onto, I want this to be an interactive experience with the, I've asked Tim Durham, my lighting guy, not to completely take the house to black, because I want them to be part of it. I want us to be able to see each other. And so usually the theater, the house is very dark, so that, but I've asked him not to do that for this one. And we're also going to use the scrim, I think the opera uses for translations of their operas that are in Italian and such, to just have these little messages that they can, see as we're dancing. And I use dancing hesitantly because what's been fun for us for me with the kids is this idea of like, we're going to drop our ego a little bit. We're not going to have a bunch of jumps. We're not going to have a bunch of turns. We're going to do things that people can relate to, that make the stage feel like it's breathing, that it's flying, that it has this movement that encourages people to expand and contract, And so it's just things that hopefully the audience, so it feels all inclusive as opposed to just them being voyeurs to our amazing skills that we work on all the time, So that's,
a cathartic experience.
Yeah, a cathartic experience.
A shared experience.
Shared, yeah.
I mean, some folks go and they hear live music and the symphony, and that gives them that sense of catharsis, on the inside. It's an inner experience, inner event, but what you're doing with the dance, I think, is looking at it a little bit in a non-traditional way, but also from your standpoint as a teacher and educator. You work with these ballet dancers, you give classes. I know you guys are in your fall class schedule now. There's always something going on at Toledo Ballet, but it seems to me that it's almost like a demonstration. It's almost like you say, an hour-long meditation. It's a different approach for the audience that goes above and beyond. Let's go and see them do a bunch of pirouettes,
right. We have that a couple months later at the Nutcracker. Please come watch them in their glory and watch them jumping around and turning as much as you want. But
get your cake and eat it too.
Yeah,
right?
With this one, I really want the audience to feel more a part of it as opposed to, something they're just watching us do our thing.
Okay, this is the end of our quiz, just about. A couple of questions here. What was illegal in Iceland until 1989? Was it beer? Was it hard liquor? Or was it wine? Which of those was banned in Iceland until 1989? Also, according to the BBC, 1 out of 10 Icelanders will do what during their lifetime? Is it A, write a book, B, brew their own spirits, or C, sample every ice cream shop in the country? A, B, or C. Write a book, brew spirits, or eat ice cream. And I'll throw in this very last question. You know what? I'll save it for the end. We'll have a little discussion first. Vanessa, you talked about how you de-stress at home and have been de-stressing, especially during the pandemic. I mean, you arrived here when it was really taking hold,
Yes.
so it was a completely different experience from what what other people have had in coming to this job. But Merwin, I skipped over you, as far as what you do and have been doing, your routine for dealing with stress. I mean, aside from going to see Michael Lang's productions, you want to weigh in on that? I can give you mine first if you want.
Sure, that sounds great.
Okay. What I do is I call it communing with nature. It basically just means going on a walk or a light jog for a couple of hours out in one of the metro parks. Sometimes I go in and around, the area where I live. But yeah, it's very important to get out and feel alone in the world, but the natural world, right? And I think it somehow, I'm not out there doing Tai Chi moves or whatever, but I still feel a sense of breathing, throughout that whole experience. Is that good in your view, Michael?
I think that's beautiful. Yeah, because you are doing Tai Chi. That's the thing, is it's I always say, with Qigong, it's just if you can do Qigong when you're doing the dishes, then you have something, right?
Wow.
Yeah, but interesting you say that, because it's part of the show, actually, because I have a friend that's in the show, and I asked Richard, he basically comes and visits me in my little grass land back there. But I asked him, he's been in other shows I've done, but I said, would you be the one who comes to visit me? Because I need everything to feel authentic, and I want a friend up there. I don't want an actor playing my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so authenticity. But we've recreated set-wise the botanical gardens on stage, because Richard and I on Sunday mornings will go and just walk the botanical gardens, like you said, and talk about things. We're very like-minded people. But he had just had throat surgery recently, and he couldn't speak. And I said, hey, let's do this. Let's go to the botanical gardens and do our walk in silence and see if we notice different things than when we're chatting. And so we've recreated that kind of experience on stage. And Jim Hill, my set designer, has been busy building like rocks and bridges over the water and just different things that are part of the botanical. Yeah.
Okay, Merwin, you're up.
It's actually been really interesting to listen to everybody kind of, talk about this. Something that's always been important for me is to literally ground myself, to lie down on my back and look up. And there's
not while you're playing violin, though.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I will actually.
When you're practicing.
I will actually play on my back.
Wow.
I feel a lot of times that's where my tension collects. And then so if I lie down, and especially if it's on grass, I can kind of try to kind of exchange that tension into the ground a little bit. So our poor box office staff has probably seen me out our window on the museum grounds, during our lunch hour, lying down, looking up at the sky,
upside down planking.
But it's something that it has felt fairly overwhelming. I think I was listening to Vanessa talk about work-life balance, and I think it's been very difficult for me to find those boundaries a little bit. I think when we are typically rehearsing, when we're in what many people would think of as my job, that feels so cleansing and freeing. But it's unfortunately been somewhat a smaller part of our job in the last little while. We've had so much to do outside of that to allow for rehearsals to happen that typically I've never really thought of the need for work-life balance, because work, my typical work is so cleansing and it's part of my soul, but now it's been very different. So I've felt the need to look at the clouds and to kind of feel the bumps in the ground in my back.
Yeah, wonderful.
I love that.
That is usually not the response.
I had to break the mood with that. And having done that, let me bring in our last quiz question, then we'll go back and we'll find out this hard truth. Final question: what is the national sport of Iceland? Is it A, football? And I'm not saying whether I mean European or American, just football. B, horseback riding, or C, handball? A, B, or C? Okay, let's go back now.
I have a bonus question.
Yeah, what's that?
What binge-worthy series did Mr. Arnalds compose the soundtrack for?
Oh, gosh. And it was an Icelandic series, huh?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't? Mm-mm. Okay, well, we'll save that for the end. All right. That'll be the coup de grace. Okay, what fast food company is not found in Iceland? The answer was A, McDonald's. Everybody get A?
Nope, I didn't.
What'd you choose?
Whatever B was.
B was Domino's Pizza. They have Domino's there. They have Subway there, but they don't have McDonald's. They used to have McDonald's, and then it went away, and they just never built another one. So there aren't any McDonald's in Iceland. Okay, what fast food chain is actually in Iceland? Is it the Hungarian pastry shop, the Vitamin Bar, or American Style? The answer is C, American Style.
I got that one.
Vanessa got that one? Mm-hmm. You guys have to mark,
do they serve hot dogs
got,
there?
what you didn't get. I don't know. I think they do, American Style. Mostly burgers and dogs. Hungarian pastry shop, of course, is in New York.
Of course.
Vitamin Bar, there has to be some vitamin bars somewhere.
In Merwin's backside.
Aside from the candy bar type deal. Okay, there's a famous school in Iceland where you can learn all about what? According to a study from the University of Iceland in 2007, over 62% of Icelanders believe that this character or characters might be real. Is it elves, A, or B, fairies, or C, Santa? The answer is elves. Is the elf
fairies.
school, which you can actually visit online, theelfschool.com. They charge $64 to take their classes learning all about elves and the history of elves in Iceland.
Will Ferrell graduated from there.
Exactly. Okay, what controversial habit do most Icelandic parents follow? Is it A, they leave their infants outside to sleep in the cold? B, they don't look their children in the eye? Or C, they let their kids go off on their own as early as 4 years old? A, B, or C? The answer is A. They not only let their infants sleep outside, they park them outside in their stroller before they go into a store or a shop. So the pictures of like baby strollers all lined up in front of the store. And the point is that Iceland is like one of the safest places in the world, so people feel comfortable doing that.
They don't like chain them to a telephone pole like you do with your dog.
No, and I don't do that with my dog. But I don't have a dog,
my
so
part too loud if I do that.
yeah. Okay, so let's see. Where was the next one here? All right, got it. What is one of the most popular apps in Iceland used for? Okay, now we're getting into the good stuff. Is it A, finding the nearest hot dog stand? Is it B, avoiding hooking up with your cousin on Tinder? Or is it C, locating secret fishing hotspots? The answer is B, avoiding hooking up with your cousin. Because it is, it's this fairly small island. There's a lot of familial relationships there that you may not be privy to. So there's the database that evidently this app goes through and references to find out if you're related to your prospective beau, right?
I feel like Zach would drop a Canadian joke in right about now.
Totally. I'll add the rim shot, and we can add the joke later. Okay, so the next one. What unusual museum is found in Iceland? Is it A, the Underwater Museum? Is it B, the Museum of Broken Relationships? I feel like that one needs a little. The Museum of Broken Relationships. Or is it C, the Phallological Museum, also known as the Museum?
I want it to be the Scuba Museum.
Yeah,
but
me too.
I
That's
don't
what
think
I
that's
thought.
what it is.
That is actually in Cancun, Mexico. It's a real thing. But that's not it. The
One more
answer
time.
is C, the Phallological
course it is.
Museum. That actually exists in Iceland. Okay.
So far, I've got McDonald's.
Nice. What was illegal in Iceland until 1989? Was it beer, A, or B, hard liquor, or C, wine? The answer is beer. Beer was illegal. About a century ago, Iceland banned all of the alcoholic drinks, but within a decade, red wine had been legalized again. Then in the 1930s, they legalized spirits again, but they kept beer off limits until March of 1989. Apparently, there was some sort of political connotation to beer and Icelandic history, and it was viewed unfavorably until enough time had passed. So the point is, you can now get a beer in Iceland. All right? According to the BBC, 1 out of 10 Icelanders will do what during their lifetime? Is it A, write a book? Is it B, brew their own spirits? Or C, sample every ice cream shop in the country? In fact, they have a standalone word which means an ice cream road trip. It's called Ísbíltúr, where basically you go on a road trip and eat ice cream. But that's not the answer. It's not C. The answer is A, write a book.
I switched it at the last minute.
They say 1 out of 10 Icelanders will write a book. Now, they don't, it doesn't have to be a huge tome or a novel. It could be a simple little thin book. But 1 out of 10 will write a book. They're very big on reading there. Like the public benches in Iceland even have barcodes that you can swipe with your phone, and then you can listen to a story. The barcode takes you to a selection of stories that you can listen to while you sit on the bench. That's a different, meditative use of the phone. Michael is looking at me with this skeptical look in his eyes.
I think I was just spacing out, actually.
Good to know. So that was A. The final one, what is the national sport of Iceland? Is it football, horseback riding, or handball? And the answer is C, handball.
Yay.
And then now to Vanessa's question. Let's get your question in here, Vanessa.
Okay.
Let me pull up a little fanfare for your question.
I'm going to slightly revise the way I ask it.
Because of the fanfare?
Okay.
For which binge-worthy series did Ólafur Arnalds compose a portion of the soundtrack? How about that?
Okay. Has anybody got an answer to that? You have to give us multiple choice.
Oh, okay. Is it A? Wait, what's that?
Breaking Bad.
No. What's the one with the? Oh gosh, I can't remember the name.
Quizzes are hard, man.
Quizzes are hard. How about I just tell you the answer?
That's not as easy as you think.
It's
yes.
not. It's Broadchurch.
Oh,
wow.
Broadchurch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great series.
It is a great series.
I had no idea that
So that gives her a point.
Ólafur Arnalds
Ólafur
composed music for Broadchurch.
Yes.
Okay, I'll save that for the next time that we do a show about Ólafur Arnalds. Okay.
Okay.
So how'd you guys do? This is like the
really
honest
bad.
I got 3.
I got 4.
the honor system.
I got McDonald's.
So
Okay.
there's some irony in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But wait, Vanessa, are you including the extra credit quiz
No.
question?
I got 3 real answers.
So you got 3. Merwin, you got 4.
Yeah.
Merwin wins again.
Again.
Uninspired guesses about Iceland is the title of this particular episode,
I'm
right?
gonna have to start lying on my back and looking at the clouds more often.
Well, the program, I should say, or the meditation, the experience itself, it's called Coming Up for Air. There's just one performance, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Is this going to be on the streaming platform as well?
It is not going to
It is
be on
not,
top of
okay.
streaming.
So this is their chance to see it, is to go there,
That's right.
sit in the audience, and enjoy the experience. Coming Up for Air. It's happening Saturday at 7 o'clock p.m. At the Valentine Theater. Tickets are at ToledoSymphony.com, or the box office number is 419-246-8000. A wonderful production from Toledo Ballet. I feel like we don't talk about Toledo Ballet enough because you guys are doing so much and you're so busy and you're doing a lot of classes right now. Now you have this production, you have Nutcracker coming up, which will be here before you know it. So I'm sure we'll have you back to talk about that as well, as
There
we have
was
done
snow
in
in
the past.
Vote Studio last night, actually. So
Oh, wow.
yes, they're already.
Wow, wonderful. Well, we look forward to all of that. I encourage folks to go to the website, ToledoBallet.com, right?
I think.
You think that's it?
I
That's
think
good.
that's it. No, I think something else people might not know is that we actually offer a lot of healing arts at the ballet as
okay.
well. I have a whole wellness studio with Pilates and Qigong and all kinds of different things and classes, Pilates mat classes and just all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff.
And registration is still open, so folks can still register. Kids, teenagers, adults can all still register for classes.
It's great at ToledoBallet.com.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony, with generous support from the Rita Barbara Kern Foundation. You can download episodes of our program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. Don't forget, you can check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website at ToledoSymphony.com and their various social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find the TSO's streaming platform online at stream.artstoledo.com. My thanks to Merwin Sue, Vanessa Gardner, and Michael Lang. I'm Brad Cresswell. This has been Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.